Good afternoon, students, and welcome today to this guest speaker today. We have Daniel Whooley, one of our past students here. So we're going to talk today, and I hope you'll join us on this live stream and you'll ask questions, from your perspective as new students to the college, things you'd like to learn. But also we're going to listen to Daniel's story and how much the last few years, his time since he's left us and what he's done. So you're very welcome. Daniel, I should welcome you. Before we kind of get into it, and we'll kind of do this chat today, we'll divide it in different ways. The first thing I might do, you might introduce yourself, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself before we might talk about you before you came to Dunboyne.
Sure. As you've said, my name is Daniel Whooley. I'm the Deputy Mayor of Fingal and I'm a County Councillor there as well. I'm also a student in TU Dublin Blanchardstown campus, studying cybersecurity and digital forensics. So I'm kept busy anyway. I guess I went to Dunboyne in 2016, if my memory serves me right. So it's been a while ride since then.
Perfect. So just before we kind of go to where you are now and all these great achievements you've done, let's go back to Leaving Cert. And for a lot of our students, at home who are watching us, they are going to come to us, they might have come back from the CEO and all that controversial, but they might have been short points and, they might not be feeling well. So how did you come to us, or how did you apply to us is kind of my first question.
You were right on the money there. I was, I really underperformed in Leaving Cert. Maybe to go a bit back further, in my 6th year of school, I kind of dossed a lot. Okay. Me and my friends didn't see it as the final year of school going on to college. Absolutely. We just saw it as a final chance for all of my mates to kind of be together and have a laugh. And we really took that to heart and did no real work bar one or two subjects I was interested in. Dropped to ordinary in a lot of subjects that I really should have continued higher level in. And in the end I got, and I'd admit it, like 240 points for me, which was not anywhere close.
Perfect.
And I was aiming for 350, so I was well off the mark.
Perfect. And just thinking there with your points and what you've said there, essentially, how did you feel that time? Essentially after the points, they come out, that envelope opens with a score. Did you essentially say that's it? I'm a write-off, or what did you feel then?
It really felt like that, and I'd say a lot of students there will feel that, like when you feel like you miss your target, that almost like the world opens up and you're like, well, what do I do next? It's for the first time in my life I would have felt like I don't have a next obvious step. Everything else has sort of been junior, leaving, primary to secondary to college, and I had just a U-turn. I'm not going to college, or not the college, the generic level 8 Maynooth or DC or UCD. And I think it was the first time I really had to, for a week or two, actually look at myself, decide who I am, what I want, and see if I was happy with that, if I wanted to change that. And it was really eye-opening, and I'm glad that I was given that chance, because I probably would have felt that same feeling or had to go through that same process, but it could have been after college or something like that. And I'm happy it was then, and I managed to go to Dunboyne and then find out what I wanted to do next.
Yeah, perfect. So kind of, for any students out there who have got this score, or there's different set of circumstances, because, for you, that's just your journey, and there might be someone else who has the exact same. There's a question here, and we kind of say, don't feel displacent. So this kind of brings us now to, we can kind of start talking about, obviously you're going now, you've got this Leaving Cert, it's done, thank God, says you, but, Dunboyne, how did you find out about it, or was it last minute, or when you came to us?
It was actually, I think Dunboyne had come into my secondary school at Hartstown and spoke, and my parents were just egging on me, going, put it down. If you don't want to go, you don't want to go, but rather safe than sorry. And I'm very happy they did that, because it would have been more of a disaster if I didn't, and I'd really, would have been lost.
Which is great, because not every school talks about PLC.
Of course.
So it's great that your school did, and it gave you the option. So in terms of, we'll refresh the memory. When you started, now these students on Monday, the teaching timetable, it's going to kick in, they're going to start. Do you remember how you felt then? Were you nervous, or how did you feel?
Heart was on the floor like everyone else. You sort of felt like the beginning of primary and secondary school again. You've gone from progressing, having friends, being comfortable, if you were that in secondary school, to not. And all of a sudden it's a new set of rules, it's being around people you don't know, and it's because you're lost, it's very obvious that maybe you might not be confident that, I don't know, if Dunboyne is where you want to be. But the best thing about it was that on my first day on my induction, I bumped into someone I can call a good friend now, Ben. And from there, we've actually been great friends, and he was one of the people that helped me get into politics and beyond. So the best advice I can give to anyone is when you come in and you are feeling nervous, everyone's feeling the exact same. And don't be afraid to break the ice or try to chat with people and make some friends, because the worst is they're just not going to be friends with you, and the best is you've got a good set of mates. And that's something that I was lucky that in my class, in my year, there was half a dozen of us. And we all end up chatting and getting to know each other. And by the end, I'd actually had 6 or 7 good friends who had gone through the same experience that I had gone through, a messy leaving cert, sort of like unsure where they were in life. And this course was a way for us to come together and actually find friends who are going through the same path, rather than maybe friends who you may have had in primary and secondary, which were just convenience or through location. That's the best advice, yeah.
So perfect. So kind of what we're saying, and guys at home, any questions you have, please filter them through. I can see them here on the screen. For our students starting Monday, what you're saying is, there is an element, you are going to be nervous, but don't be afraid to say hello. I'd be encouraged, and I'm probably sure you can encourage, get those class groups together, those WhatsApps or whatever form of communication, and come a bond. And I think that's one thing, you had a unique experience here because you had close friends, okay, and you said Ben, so kind of, that's the first bit that we have, this, element of nervousness that you would have had as a student. You did, remind me again, your course again that you did?
Pre-University Arts and Culture, I think, was the official title.
Perfect. So one of our pre-university departments. So that was your course, and you would have had your modules that you had to do, and this is something we'll be saying to students that they have to do. Don't drop. As assignments were coming in those first few weeks, was there anything that stood out for you? What worked? How did you kind of, start these assignments? Because you keep saying, and you said at the start there, it's different. It's not secondary school. You're not handheld. It's self-directed. You need to do this. How do you think you tackled those first assignments? Or any tips or tricks? Or
you're kind of lost, because again, they're just like, there's assignments. Go research them. We'll give you a bit of help on, like, here's a general area. Here's some helpful links, or here's some books to read. But it's very much like, go off, do them, and if you finish them, you finish them. If you don't, you don't. We're not your parents, we're not going to hold you by your hands. And it's very different to secondary school, where it's all in the class text, and you just have to regurgitate it. And for people who want to go on to more formal level 7s, level 8s, I would recommend really going on a deep dive in and actually learn how to research, how to write, how to reference, and there's videos, but also there's tools that will help you with your grammar, because that's one of the things that you do need help with.
Absolutely.
And it's something that you just sort of expect to, it's the exact same thing as secondary school, which is secondary school plus 1.
Yeah.
It's not. It's
a
brand new experience.
Kind of what you're saying there, and kind of will circulate for the students what they see Monday, is the area of support. Obviously, since you've been here, we are expanding, we're growing, we're live streaming this for students for orientation, but we've got support now, academic. So we've really, so what we'll be saying to students now is, there's referencing, research. We're going to teach this to students. We've a project management period now that students have to do. It's like a mentor period that we can guide students, because we are getting bigger. So really what you're saying is there is support, but you need to learn this. So there's new things that you're doing. So kind of, let me see, the year for you in Dunboyne, would you be fair, it was quick? Was the quickest, few months of your life?
Not really. It was that whole year was a period of adjustment of not just within the school, but outside of school, coming to terms with what I wanted to do, finding other interests that actually interested me, and making sure that sort of for me, it was a feeling of failure I had when I had not reached, by such a contrast, the points I wanted to reach by about 100. By ensuring I never felt that, because it's a really shitty feeling. I apologize for the language. I'm not sure that's. I don't know.
But it's true. No, you have to say
it is, and it's a gut-wrenching feeling, and you don't want to feel it again. And it's really easy just to continue, but no, I don't want to feel that, and not work towards not doing it.
It's a fear of failure in a way, or not in the sense.
Letting yourself down.
Yeah.
Like I had wanted to go to college, and I had wanted to do a degree in whatever it was. I don't even remember now. It's so different.
Yeah.
And I had wanted to be like almost everyone else in my year who had gone on to Maynooth or Trinity or DC or UCD, and it didn't happen for me.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I think my journey, not just as a teacher here. We had a conversation before we started. I was a past student here. I know exactly when that Leaving Cert result comes in, how you can feel, and it's not nice, and it does take time. But isn't it amazing that there's a place here in Dunboyne that can build you right back up, give you that confidence, and get you to where you want to be. So kind of, you've said that's kind of your year here.
Do you mind coming? In secondary schools, though, it is the feeling that that's the next path that the level 8s are, and if you miss that, you are a failure, and that is not the case. As you said yourself and myself and so many others, level 8 is a viable alternative, and not just for people like myself who missed out on college, but for those who genuinely don't know what to do. Half my class at the time were people who had gotten sufficient points to do whatever they wanted. There was a guy in my class had 590 at one stage. Could have chosen any course, but he didn't know what to do. And I think when you're at that age of 17, 18, I had no clue what's going to go into politics. And I'm studying cybersecurity. I had no interest in computers whatsoever, bar just playing video games. So it's a good year to just look inside and go, well, actually, what do I want to do in life? Because the reality is, what you do in college, you probably will end up doing for your career. And it's a big ask for a lot of people to go at 17, 18, a vague interest you've not studied in, you're doing this.
So kind of, you obviously, and you stand here or sit here before us, you had a good year in Dunboyne. You worked hard, you got your distinctions, you got what you needed, and we'll talk maybe more towards the end. You had that drive, you really did. So I think for anyone at home who sees this, they probably will see, they might, question, why they're here. There's many different reasons why people will be in that class on Monday. After Dunboyne, tell us where you went next. So you did say cybersecurity, so where are you doing it? So kind of fill us in, where that end after
Funny
Dunboyne.
enough, towards the end of my time in Dunboyne, I didn't do as well as I would have liked. As well in Dunboyne, I passed enough modules, and I was happy enough I graduated. But I went through the same period of going pre-university arts and culture. I didn't want to go down history or the sort of humanities route. I was interested. It's probably led into my career in politics, but I was not something I really wanted to do. And I was in that period where I managed to go, what courses are available to me? And I chose cybersecurity in what was ITB and now TU Dublin Baptiststown. What I'm trying to say is, I did not have this moment where I went through the whole college, got A's, went into the course I wanted to. There is those fumbles, and you do go up and down, and you are in that adjustment period. So,
but I think what you kind of were saying there with your studies here, and what you did, obviously something different. For any student here, I think they'll need to hear this message that you do your course, get through this year, but this QQI, your level 5 or your level 6 will open the doors, the next doors, but you've got to remain here. And that's one thing, that's a testament to you in a way, if I do say so myself, that you did stay here. You could have just stopped doing your course here in your studies, but you didn't. You knew that there was options. So that's one thing we always kind of try to tell our students. There's career guidance there. If they don't feel like, as you said, you did like history and stuff like that, but from a career perspective, you just didn't feel it. So I want to hear more about cybersecurity, because I know there'll be computer, our computer students will want to hear a little bit more. What's your course like, or modules, or?
I really, really enjoy it. For anyone who's interested in pursuing that after this level 5 or level 6 or your time in Dunboyne, it's 2 years of general computing, and then you specialise in your final 2 years. And I would recommend it for anyone who has an interest in cybersecurity or in computers, because you have the option to pursue one or the other. It's fun. You learn new languages, and I learned the usual HTML, CSS, JavaScript, the
So you
internet-facing languages. But then you learn, Java, Python, and all that. So more, I guess, harder, more useful languages that you can use in your career.
So really, you've really come into your studies, Java and all this. This seems like code to me. I'm good at computers, but I think you're a next level above me. So in terms of, I want to kind of see the link between Dunboyne and here. What do you think you learned, foundational skills you learned here that you've taken with your studies? Like we talked earlier about referencing and research, and do you think what you learned during your time in Dunboyne helped you for where you are now with your studies and when you progressed and moved on?
Oh, the very obvious skills, referencing, getting assignments on time, which is a skill. I don't think people may think it's very obvious. It is a skill to do work in the time it's allocated, and not the night before, which I learned from and I'd say many of our students will be learned for the first.
So that's your piece of advice.
Oh, don't leave it the night before, because you'll do it and then there's 2 or 3 assignments due the night before on the same day. It's not worth it. Take it from my experience.
Yeah, so work, there is a balance here that, our prospective students need to get used to with workload. They need to balance it. So a great bit of advice from someone who's past students: don't leave the night before. You talked about reference and academic writing. This is going to be new for students, and obviously you're in your studies. So I suppose at the start, that's hard to get your head around. Plagiarism, Moodle. So these are all these new buzzwords that are coming, to students. Now, guys, I'm just going to remind anyone before we keep asking, if you've any questions, don't be afraid. This is someone who has been here in Dunboyne, who knows, has previous experience. So if you've got questions, from someone who has been a student. So you said you're in politics. So we kind of have, our pre-university, students. They'll be, doing politics studies this year. Would you have always been involved in politics, or kind of?
Once I've been involved in politics, I was always interested in local issues and all that stuff. I was also involved in a lot of youth groups and community centres, so I saw issues like that. It was really, and hence the choice of my party, the Greens. It was the IPCC report that must have come out around 2015 or 2016, if my memory serves me correct. I saw it on the news, was interested, read it, was scared, kind of realised we're in a bit of a pickle here. We need some sort of action. And from there, I talked to a few friends of mine who were more involved in politics, who had joined those sort of progressive parties. And after talking with Roger Gorman, who is now the Minister for Children and Youth Affairs, when he was a councillor at the time, sort of convinced that this was the party that was right for me at the time. Sort of involved locally, was involved in the party now in a more internal way, and then was asked to run out my way. Initially said no. I was working in a retail job and then had school. And I think I was asked again and I said no again. And then I quit my retail job. It was just after Christmas, and anyone who's worked in retail after Christmas knows you hit it.
Tough time to work.
Oh, yeah. So I left, and I think I was asked a week later, and I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? What's the risk? I lose, but I gain the skills of learning how to talk to people, of how to communicate, how to knock on doors, and if I win, I win.
So great life skills there.
Yeah.
And kind of what you were saying there, you know, and we'll see, you know, if you kind of are doing this, you know, maybe outside your studies, you might be doing a little bit more. For us, you know, we obviously have the student union, and we've got now our green campus. You know, we get students involved. You know, kind of what I'm hearing, you know, for you, politics is kind of your extracurricular, but it's something outside your studies. I think that's important to students, that they should be, you know, as much as their studies is so important, and that college life is important. Do you do any extracurricular within TUI or the college, or do you just stick to your politics?
Well, I'd love to, but
Yeah.
I don't really have the time. What I try to engage in is split my time 50-50 between the college and my councillor. So I ended up spending a lot of late nights doing both. But I know on campus in TW and Blanchardstown, there is a lot of stuff. As well as being involved here, I was involved in student council for a bit. And I believe one of my friends was on one of the main boards. And then as well, you have the pre-university courses, the Green Campus, and other activities you want to set up. I think not just from a political side, from a social side, and being involved, and even having them, and you may laugh, but they're great on CVs or references, because employees do want to look at and go, he's not a usual 9 to 5. Oh, he has an interest in this. It might help. It might help with the community the bonding in the work environment.
Perfect.
So you may not think it's great, or it's not directly helping you in the CV, but it makes you seem more human. And I think at the end of the day, if you're looking for a job, is seeming not just like someone who's got the basic degree, having those extracurricular skills does help.
So perfect. So kind of one thing we kind of didn't reflect on when we were talking about your time here is, you know, you did, you know, do student union, you did get involved, which I think is so important for students. And obviously now, you know, you're as you're studying, you seem like you are balancing things, or, you know, I know we all try to trying, but, you know, in terms of, you know, at the start of maybe your studies, would you have, you know, trying to get that workload, you know, would you give any tips to students or anything? Yeah. You know, what could they do?
Initially, particularly in Dunboyne, my work-life balance was all over the place. I still was having the same issue, even though I'd acknowledged that I needed to change, and I acknowledged that I needed to work harder and more. Acknowledging it and then actually doing it are two different things. And I think it's something that, when talking with a lot of my friends who I made in Dunboyne, they had made the same thing, where they had connected that they needed to do work, but acknowledging you need to do it and doing it are two different things. And making those hard choices where you go, maybe a night out drinking or a night out with your friends, saying no and doing those assignments, while it seems hard and annoying and no one wants to make them, is the right choice, and the right choice isn't always the easy choice.
We have a great question here from Aoife that I want to, you know, question for Daniel. Is there much difference in the atmosphere in Dunboyne compared to the college you went to after?
In a weird way, the atmosphere here is much better. Now, I should say, Aoife, that comes with the caveat, I couldn't spend a lot of time on campus, and when I did, my head was elsewhere. I was canvassing for the second half of first year, and from second year till now, I haven't been able to spend a lot of time on campus, particularly with COVID. But the atmosphere for the periods that I do remember being on campus, it was actually better here. There is easier to make friends. People are more willing to be social with you.
So kind of from students and teachers, you kind of felt there was a kind of a warmer, you know, and that
Very
probably
so.
is okay.
It's not I'm not saying that ITB isn't warm, but the people you meet here, the characters you meet here, are all in different stages of life. It could be like myself, where I knew I wanted to go on a path, and I was beginning that journey. There are people who are halfway on that journey, and there are people who I met who are just lost, who are here because they feel like that's the thing they have to do, but are still looking to find out what they want to do next and start that journey. And I think that when you acknowledge maybe where you are on that journey to, whether it's university, whether it's to finding a job. I know one of my friends here had studied, I think it was like pre-university animal care, or animal care it wasn't pre-university, that he was beginning that journey. He wasn't sure if he really wanted it. The year here made him decide if he liked it or didn't. And I think everyone is in that sort of vulnerable place where they're not quite sure. And because people are vulnerable, it's easier to connect and be open.
And I think one thing you're really saying there, and I think we'll remind people, and I think, there was probably an element of this, students worrying today, is kind of get to know your class, because they're the ones that you're going to spend a lot of time with, and you can help each other. I think students do make that, it can be difficult. Maybe last year with COVID, they didn't really connect or didn't get to know each other. So I think that's a great point you're kind of saying to students. Thanks a million for that question, Aoife. That was brilliant. Okay, so another question here is, do you need to start work experience, and did Dunboyne help you with your placement? So I can kind of answer that. The one thing that I'll be saying to students is their work experience teachers and communication teachers, that they will be discussing more of that. So any other questions, guys?
Do you mind if you give some advice on that, actually?
Yeah, absolutely.
For the work experience, I would try, if possible, to look for in a field or an area you are interested in, and don't hesitate to drop an email to most people. On the side of it, where I've seen people contact me for experience, something I can't do, by the way, you do want to help, and you can guide people in the right way. And most people will try their best to offer you some sort of help. But I know on the flip side, people chose a work experience in places they didn't want to go in, but it was convenient, and they didn't enjoy the work experience. And the write-up at the end and the presentation they make was hard because they couldn't deliver, or they weren't invested enough to do a comprehensive report. So if you can, try to contact. And I know people feel shy, and you're like, oh my God, should I text them? Or, oh my God, I don't want to send that email. Throw shyness out the window. Don't let your introverted self come out. Go for it. The worst they can say, and I mean the worst they can say, is no.
That is great advice, for students, that they should be asking everyone and anyone, and kind of don't be afraid. Don't take that no for an answer. Guys, keep those questions coming in. So in terms of, you have navigated the PLC route, and you are a great advocate for PLC, like myself, because it does work. And what we'll be saying to students is support. It's here. The staff are here to help. A big question, what is the future? Is it finish your studies, or do you have any? Yeah.
Throughout the last 2 years, I've managed to finish, or I'm near the end of that journey of what I wanted to do in my education chapter. It's very obvious to me. I want to complete my studies. I've taken a year out this year to complete my role as deputy mayor.
Great achievement.
Well, as another thing is, because mental health is important, don't overburden yourself. But yeah, and then I'm going to finish my 4th year next year and look at maybe a master's or something like that. But it's something for you guys as well out there. Don't get bogged down on what you want to do in the future. Don't think, oh my God, I want to have a career in this. That's so far ahead. No one could have predicted the pandemic. I can't predict what's happening in 2 years. Just take it one step at a time. Just think, I'll try aim for this, but I know if I'm in Dunboyne, I have to get to the end of Dunboyne, and then I'll reassess. Rather than going, I want to do this master's in 5 years, because it's such a long journey ahead. You put pressure on yourself, and you may not do it.
One thing you said there, and I just kind of quickly jotted it down just before we kind of reflect. You said about mental health, and it's so important, and we keep talking about, there are students watching this, and I can sense that, people are worried, they're anxious. I think, there's a lot of stuff like that. That's really important to talk, with your classmates. So I think you had a lovely, unique bond with your classmates. So really, what I would be saying about students in terms of they're worried now, because I know someone's going to watch this now, and they're thinking about the timetable, they're thinking about all these different things, what's coming ahead. What are the kind of tips you'll be saying for them Monday? Is there any tips there that they should be thinking of now, or to ease their mind?
Honestly, it's very simple. Just take a deep breath, calm yourself, come in here with the best of intentions, and see if you can make a friend. And if not a friend, just a good connection with someone. And if you don't, try again the next day. It's not. Don't put the pressure on yourself to be the most popular guy in the class, or that you have to get an A in everything. Aim to do the best you possibly can, and hope that ends up in an A. If it doesn't, be proud of yourself that you did the best. because the worst thing you can do is feeling afterwards going, I could have done better. And there's no worse feeling, and you can probably say, when you go, I could have done better, I could have not watched that Netflix show because it's convenient, or it's 8 o'clock and I don't want to do that assignment that's due the next day.
Another question coming in, and that is absolutely, I think for students for next week, settle in. And be kind to yourself. I think that's a really important message. So we have one question here, a question for Daniel. What advice would you give all new students that are not fully sure what they want to do after their course, whether to work or to continue education? So I could answer that firstly as a teacher, and we'll get your perspective. I think the most important thing for any student here is that we have career guidance. Derek and Maeve are amazing with our students. So as any mentor to any students this year, I'll be encouraging that they talk. But what do you think, Daniel, for that student there?
Right. Again, and I'm so lucky. I was asked. They persisted in asking me 3 times. But I didn't see a month in advance. I didn't see a week in advance of me running for election and then being elected. So thinking about what's going to happen 9 months down the line. There's a lot of pressure on yourself. The best thing to do is do your course. And if you really enjoy it, if you at the end of it go, I want to work in this field, well then that's a decision you have to make. And again, as you said, the career guidance are here. And the best thing you can do is talk to someone else who's probably a bit more older, a bit more further in that journey, because they'll have better advice to give you. You could talk to someone in career guidance who could say, oh, here's a former student. Maybe get in touch with them, chat with them, and they could say, it could be great. You could get an internship here, or maybe see if you could study that in college.
Another question here. Thanks very much, Alex, for that. Another question, Brendan, is, question for Daniel. How was the pre-arts course? I'm doing the same this year. So how was the course for you?
It was great. I'm not sure if the modules are the same, but I remember my only good even subject was history. So I made despite liking it but not knowing I would never like to work or study in it, made the rash choice to decide to study it here. And I enjoyed history and the projects here, but I knew at the end of my time it wasn't my thing. So I'm probably not the best person to talk to, but I really, really did enjoy it. I love the history. I love learning about the more local Irish history. Rather than what you normally learn.
You're passionate about it in a way. You're really, and actually thanks a million for that question, Brendan. There's another comment here, and I think it's kind of saying after listening to all these motivation speeches, I realised this is what I'm passionate about, in terms of studies, and that's really important that our students really enjoy and thrive on it. Another question here from Aoife, brilliant. Is it hard to get distinction in your classes? I know you need a fair amount to get a college placement. So from your perspective, what do you...
Distinction?
Hard to get a distinction.
Okay. Yes and no. It's hard in that you need to do work, and if you want to aim for the distinction, it probably means maybe not going out or putting that extra bit of work or that bit of research in. But it's not that it's some mystery and someone who gets a distinction has solved some crisis. The answer is really simple, just
hard work.
Have a good work-life balance, but make sure you do, when you are working, work hard.
Perfect.
And work smart. Sorry, that's another one.
And probably yourself, you'd know from your assignments, that you'd be doing now, you're reading the brief, making sure you're answering the question, having those conversations with your teacher if you're not sure about something like that, as much as what you've said. Thanks a million for that question, Aoife. Another question here, how did you find Dunboyne College of Further Education and the PLC? We've kind of talked about that, but overall, what would you say that experience was? How would you sum up Dunboyne for you?
That kind of sounds reactionary. It was life-changing in the way that it did change my path on life. It opened me up, it gave me the chance to make friends, and those friends helped change my life. It also made me realize that what my passion is and what I like is not what I want to study. And I think that's a very sometimes blurry line that a lot of people don't know where they fall on. And the thing about Dunboyne, which is important, is it's a year course for a lot of people. At the end of the year, yes, this is for me, or no, I want to keep it as a passion. And the commitment of a 4-year course and 3,000 in course fees over 4 years is a big commitment. So the choosing to do something here and going, yeah or nay, is a much, much safer bet and taking the year out. Because for a lot of people who are coming here, they're 18, 19, 20. You're young. You have time. You will thank yourself for taking the year out and going, yeah, double checking. The same way when you're leaving your house, you go, yeah, my phone, my wallet, my keys. You don't just rush out and you don't just choose something irrationally. Same idea here.
No, and that's great. And I think that's really kind of talking to the students, the kind of different students who are lost, or those who missed out because of the Leaving Cert, or those who, it's that big question, do I want to commit to a degree or long term? That's kind of what PLC is. Just checking here, any more, last questions for Daniel, any questions that we kind of want to ask? It's been great, Daniel, to really get your insight, and obviously you've studied and you've worked hard, and obviously the years have gone on by now, so you've probably reflected that PLC is valuable, and there a lot of people are Sharon is saying thank you for being so open and honest, and that is very true, but again, hopefully for our students they do really get the sense. Daniel, another question here. Have you any tips for studying? I'll be going from scraping a pass in the Leaving Cert and needing a distinction. So your tips for studying. So would you have any tips?
Working from home is a challenge. It is something that I don't want to kick people on when you're at home. And I had the same issue even now. And I've learned how to study and I know how to commit myself. It's when you're at home, you can get distracted. Taking a tea or coffee break can end up being an hour or two. When you have your phone around, it's easy to get distracted. So the best thing is, if you have a space at home that you feel comfortable studying in, I'd say go for it. The best thing is also, if you don't have a space, with public libraries opening back up, you can go to, for example, the one in Blanchardstown or whatever is your nearest library, ask if they have study spaces and go there. And if you're in those spaces with those people, the environment's different. You can put your phone on silent and you can work.
Perfect.
Can I also say, don't work more than 2 or 3 hours on a subject. People have a smallish concentration span of about 40 minutes to an hour. After 40 minutes, if you feel like you're getting a bit burnt out and that's it, take a break, do another subject, come back to it. It's the best decision I've made. I do it now with work. If I'm doing a task, it's 40 minutes to an hour. I take a break, take a step back, do something else, come back to it.
They're really
because
practical.
after the 2 or 3 hours, your mind is numb.
No, and that's actually very true and very practical tips there. So Sarah, another question here. What is the most difficult thing for you starting your PLC course? So that was from Sarah. So what was the most difficult thing for you?
It's been a while. Probably just kind of like getting a good start. It can be really easy to, I think I did it myself for the first few weeks, kind of like fall into it and wait for a routine to happen. Don't let that be the case. Have a timetable, and I use Google Calendar on my phone, and it can be like, this is what I'm doing today. Or if you're not quite sure if I should do this assignment in a certain way, ask questions. You're not expected to know everything. The teachers, and you're a great example of this, are here to help you. You've been through this process. While you can't answer every question under the sun, you help a lot. And for students who are nervous, just say, oh, I'm not quite sure how do I start this. Could you give me some tips? Or I have this idea. Would you mind telling me if this is the right path, or are you thinking something else? And then you can give good advice.
Brilliant. Another question here, and I can kind of answer it. What advice would you have for mature students on getting settled in and fitting into the class and finding connections? And I think you have really said it. It didn't matter who was in your class. Everyone connected, everyone made friends. But one thing we'll be saying to mature students here is that go to the Learning Hub, that we do have things on for mature students that they can connect, but also equally in your class, talk, get friendly, get those groups. Let's see, is there any more? Yeah, absolutely, go ahead.
If you're a mature student, you're probably coming to a college from a very different perspective than I did. And the best thing I can say is don't let that maybe shyness or think that you're different affect you. If you have a question, ask it. If you're feeling shy and don't want to make friends because you think, oh, I'm a bit older than them, don't let them shy away. You yourself are a personality. Don't let that age be a reason not to show who you are. And again, the stereotype in level 8 colleges is the mature students ask the questions that the more shy leaver people don't. So you may not think it, but there is a sort of like friendly expectation to be like, this guy's more serious in life, or he's progressed more. And those people will want to talk to you and chat to you and find out, why have you chosen this course? Your reason for coming here will be very different to another person's reason, and they could learn from you.
Brilliant. Another question from Alex here. Any advice for that nervous, anxious student? I didn't have a great time in secondary school and hoping to enjoy the education at the end of all this year. That's a good question. Yeah. I think what you were saying earlier, you're kind of saying to students, take it day by day, take it week by week, settle. And I think you're really kind of saying, class groups, get engaged, talk, make friends. But anything else you want to say?
That's it. From a social aspect, dive right in. If you find someone you connect with, find them on, I don't know, like Snapchat or Facebook or Messenger. I don't know what people use nowadays, but I make myself seem really old now. But find out, drop them a message. Or there's a load of stuff going on around here, and you have the Blanchardstown Centre, which is, you're able to get there with the 270 bus. Be like, oh, do you want to go for some food? One of the things I did in my level 8 course, or my level 7 course in ITB, is whenever my friends and I, when we first finished our first sort of reports and projects and exams, we were like, let's go to Nando's. And it's a way for all of us to, when we were shy at the start, to kind of like bond. And then from then on, it became a bit of a tradition. Whenever we do well in exams, we'd go and we'd treat ourselves. And that's a way to build up a friendship. So don't be afraid to ask questions and talk to people.
Perfect. I'm just having a look here at the chat here. I think some mature students connecting with each other, which is great. And I think don't be worrying, we'll be rocking it. And which is it's true for all students. They will absolutely question, is there anything you regret or you would do differently looking back on it now? It's a big question.
I actually don't know. No, not really. In a weird way, I try not to, this is probably more advice from myself in life, try not to look back on regrets, because then you get bogged down by what you did wrong, and the past is in the past, you don't have a time machine. So I probably could have done things better. I could have done this assignment differently, or worked harder on this thing, or but it's not the end of the world. Just try your best, commit to it, and yeah.
Perfect. What I would say, Daniel, this week, and guys, the engagement was great today. We had, yourself and we had Porrick in this week talking to our students, and I think really setting them up next week. There is an element of nervousness. The weekend, get your sleep, rest. Daniel, what I say, I wish you the best. Don't be a stranger to the college. Be a friend. Our graduate association, and thanks for a great conversation. And I wish you all the best.
Well, thank you so much, and I wish everyone who's starting the best too. I can't wait to be back if you guys invite me back.
Absolutely.
And yeah, just have fun. It's not the end of the world if you mess up. So take it easy. Enjoy it.
Perfect. Thanks a million, guys, and we'll sign off with that.